Good afternoon. I'm Tom Hansen. We have breaking news from Washington. We want to take you now to Capitol Hill, where Speaker Mike Johnson is discussing ongoing negotiations to fund the Department of Homeland Security and end the partial government shutdown. Let's watch.
Deportation of dangerous criminal illegal aliens. We have to do these basic functions of government. We have to fund them in order to do them. In the last several days, we have recent examples of dangerous criminals in this country killing innocent Americans. We had an 18-year-old college student in Chicago, a young lady who was shot in the back by a dangerous criminal who had been released in that sanctuary city and first released at the border under Joe Biden. They opened the border wide for 4 years. Just yesterday, or in the last 36 hours or so, an 83-year-old man's pushed onto the subway tracks and run over by a dangerous criminal illegal alien. This has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it.
What's up, people? Welcome to Dr. John Podcast. Sit down. The man who thought he owned the Republican Party just got stabbed in the back by his own people, and the knife came from the one person he trusted most to hold the line. Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republicans just pulled off a late-night legislative maneuver that has Donald Trump.
This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this act, and amounts specified in the final bill."
Absolutely spiraling out of control. They passed a spending bill he explicitly told them to kill. They defied his direct orders. They ignored his veto threats. And when the votes were counted, when the bill passed, when Trump realized what they had done, he lost his mind completely. This isn't a drill. This isn't a minor disagreement. This is House Republicans looking the President of the United States in the eye and saying, "We don't care what you want."
Under the subheading Border Security Operations, and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Department of Homeland Security, shall be zero. We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday and pretend and think that we're going to go along with that. So we're going to do something different. We're going to do the responsible thing. Republicans are going to continue to govern and do the right thing morally, legally, and politically. We are going to take care of those who take care of us. The employees in the Department of Homeland Security have gone without funding and without paychecks for 42 days. It's the second longest shutdown in U.S. history, bested only by the longest shutdown in U.S. history that these same radical Democrats hoisted upon the government in the fall of last year. 42 days they've gone without pay.
We're doing what's right for us. And the best part, Trump never saw it coming. He thought they were loyal. He thought they would fall in line. He thought his threats would work. He was wrong on every single count. What happened in that chamber represents the single biggest crack in Trump's political armor since he took office. The party he built, the party he controls, the party that has jumped whenever he said jump for years, just broke ranks and went around him.
By some estimates, close to 500 TSA agents who have resigned from their jobs, and who could blame them? They've gone half the fiscal year without a regular paycheck. We can't ask that of anyone. And the lines around the airlines and at the airports have been wrapped around the buildings because of all this turmoil. We are very grateful to have a strong commander-in-chief in the White House who has taken real leadership. President Trump has already ordered by executive order that TSA agents will be paid, and that machinery is in process right now. The Office of Management and Budget is working through that to make sure that that happens, and we will reduce the lines and the waits at the airlines, and we'll make sure that those who are protecting us are paid. But what we are going to present and what we're going to vote on this floor, our Rules Committee is working through this right now. We're going to put a clean, simple, continuing resolution that will go until May 22nd. It's just a number of weeks, to allow for all those who sacrificially serve the country and protect other Americans, all these agencies, 10 agencies under the Department of Homeland Security, will continue at their current funding levels to make sure that they are protected. We're going to send that over to the Senate.
Stay with me, because what you're about to understand about this vote will change how you see the entire remainder of Trump's presidency. Here's what just went down, and it's absolutely wild. House Republicans pulled off a late-night maneuver that essentially stabbed President Trump right in the back. On a crucial spending bill, Trump didn't want it. He was demanding deep cuts.
And we hope that they'll accept that. They can do it in record time, just like that, with the unanimous consent. They could do that as early as Monday. In the meantime, TSA will be paid. We will have done our jobs, and we will protect the homeland, because that is the most basic responsibility of the Congress, is to protect the American people. We're not playing political games on this. We encourage some of our Democrats, hopefully we'll have some of our Democrats in the House who go along with this and stop the pain that's being forced upon these people. The reason that we can't accept
He wanted the government to shut down rather than pass what he saw as a weak bill. He was threatening to veto it. He was posting on Truth Social about how the bill was terrible. He was telling Republicans not to vote for it. He was doing everything he could to kill it. And then Speaker Johnson and the House Republicans just went ahead and passed it anyway. They passed it without him. They passed it despite his threats. They passed it knowing he would be furious about it.
this ridiculousness, okay, is because we're not going to risk not funding the agencies that keep the American people safe. The Department of Homeland Security is the third largest department in the federal government. It has 10 agencies beneath it. It's not just TSA, it's also FEMA, the Coast Guard, all these agencies that keep us safe. We must fund them. This is not a game. Republicans will do the responsible and honorable thing, and Democrats will continue to play politics.
Mr. Speaker,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You and John Thune are not on the same page. You came out and criticized Democrats. He was the engineer behind this. Why are you guys not on the same page? And are you not extending the shutdown? If you were to accept what the Senate had passed, this could end tonight and the TSA lines would shrink.
I wouldn't call John Thune the engineer of this. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. I have to protect the House. Let me answer the question, Chad.
And when Trump found out, when he realized what they had done, he absolutely spiraled. He went on a Truth Social tirade. He started posting angry, furious messages. He called it a total betrayal. He called Republicans Renos and cowards. He was raging about how the GOP had stabbed him in the back. This is a huge moment. This is Republicans essentially saying they don't care what Trump wants. They're going to do what they think is right for the party, regardless of whether the president approves. And that's shocking because Trump has basically owned the Republican Party for the last several years. When Trump says jump, Republicans jump. When Trump wants something, Republicans deliver. But this time, they didn't. They went against him. They betrayed him. And Trump is losing his mind over it. Let me explain what actually happened here, because the details are important and they show you exactly how tense things are getting between Trump and his own party. The bill that passed was a bipartisan stopgap measure to fund the government through the summer months. It was designed to keep the government open and funded so that the Trump administration could continue operating without facing a catastrophic government shutdown. Trump had been demanding that any funding bill include major cuts to non-defense spending. He wanted billions for border wall construction. He wanted huge increases in funding for ICE so he could deport more undocumented immigrants faster. He wanted more money for detention facilities. He wanted funding that would directly support his mass deportation agenda. But the Democrats who control the Senate were refusing to give him that. They weren't going to fund a massive wall project. They weren't going to massively increase immigration enforcement spending. They weren't going to give him everything he wanted. They were refusing to negotiate on his terms. So Trump's position was essentially this: if I can't have what I want, then I'm willing to let the government shut down. That was his ultimatum. That was his position. He was willing to let the government shut down rather than pass a bill he saw as weak and inadequate. And Trump thought he had Republicans in line on this. He thought they would refuse to pass a bill without his demands. He thought they would support him. He thought they were loyal to him, but he was wrong. Republicans had other priorities. They realized that a government shutdown right before the midterm elections would be a disaster for them politically. They realized they had vulnerable seats. They realized that a shutdown would tank their approval ratings. They realized they needed to pass something and move on. So they decided to go around Trump. They decided to pass the bill anyway. They decided to betray him, and the vote was close. It passed by a razor-thin margin. That's how tight it was, and it only passed passed because a group of Republicans sided with Democrats. A block of Republicans crossed the aisle and voted with the other party to pass a bill that Trump didn't want. That shows you there's real division in the Republican Party. That shows you Trump doesn't have the absolute control he thought he had. That shows you some Republicans are willing to stand up to him. And when the vote happened, when the bill passed, Trump found out and he absolutely lost it. He started posting on Truth Social. He posted angry messages. He called it a betrayal. He called Republicans weak. He called them rhinos, Republicans in name only. He said they had tricked him. He said they had stabbed him in the back, and he was furious, genuinely deeply angry about this. Let's dig into what actually went down here, because understanding the mechanics of this vote is important. Understanding why Republicans did this and what it means is crucial to understanding where we are right now in American politics. This isn't just a simple budget dispute. This is about power. This is about control. This is about the future of the Republican Party. And this is about whether Trump can keep dominating his own party or whether his influence is starting to crack. Start with what was actually in this bill and why Trump opposed it so strongly. The bill funded the government at existing levels. That means continuing current spending levels. No massive increases, no massive decreases. Just keeping things the same. Just maintaining the status quo on government spending. That's what Trump absolutely hated about it. He didn't get his wall funding. He didn't get the billions he wanted for border wall construction. He didn't get his ICE increases. He didn't get the huge increases in funding for immigration and customs enforcement that he wanted to accelerate deportations. He didn't get the money he wanted for immigration enforcement generally. The bill basically ignored all of his demands. It just continued the status quo. It kept funding at existing levels. And to Trump, that's a defeat. That's a loss. That's not acceptable because he wanted more money for his immigration agenda. He wanted to accelerate deportations. He wanted the resources to deport more people faster. He wanted to expand detention capacity. And the bill didn't give him those resources. But for House Republicans, the bill was actually a victory in a different sense because it avoided a government shutdown. It kept the government open and operating. It allowed them to move on to other legislative business. And more importantly, it protected their vulnerable members who were facing tough re-election campaigns in competitive districts. A government shutdown right before the midterm elections would have been an absolute political disaster for Republicans. People would have blamed Congress. People would have blamed the Republicans specifically, and that would have catastrophically hurt Republican chances of holding the House and maintaining the Senate. So House Republicans made a calculation. They said, we need to pass something. We need to avoid a shutdown at all costs. We need to move forward. And we're willing to do that even if it means going against President Trump and his demands. Speaker Mike Johnson made the critical decision to do this. Johnson made the call to proceed with the vote. Johnson knew full well that it would anger President Trump. Johnson knew Trump would rage about it on Truth Social. Johnson knew Trump would be furious, but Johnson thought it was the right move for the Republican Party overall. Johnson's reasoning was straightforward and political. He said after the vote that saving the majority required this move, that a shutdown would kill them in the polls. Johnson was essentially saying that passing the spending bill was absolutely necessary to protect Republican control of the House of Representatives. Because if there was a government shutdown right now, Republican approval ratings would tank. People would blame Congress. People would blame the Republican Party. And that would absolutely doom the midterm election prospects for Republicans across the board. So Johnson made his decision. Johnson decided to make the move. Johnson decided to pass the bill. Johnson decided to go around President Trump and proceed anyway, despite his opposition. And Johnson's political calculation might actually be correct. Shutdowns are unpopular with the general public. They hurt the party that's blamed for them. And in this case, Trump was actively demanding a shutdown. Trump was saying he would veto any bill he didn't personally like. Trump was basically saying he wanted the government to shut down rather than compromise. And Republicans realized that if they let that happen, if they complied with Trump's demand for a shutdown, they would be blamed for it politically. Even though Trump would be blamed too, Republicans would suffer significant political damage. So Johnson and House Republicans decided to do what they thought was right for the party and for their members. They passed the bill despite Trump's explicit threats and opposition. But here's where it really gets interesting from a political perspective. This vote shows that Trump doesn't have absolute control over the Republican Party anymore. He doesn't have every single Republican in his pocket. He doesn't have the kind of iron grip on the party that he used to have. Some Republicans are willing to defy him. Some Republicans are willing to vote against his wishes, even when they know he'll be angry about it. A meaningful number of Republicans voted for this bill knowing that Trump opposed it. They chose to side with Democrats rather than side with Trump on this vote. That's a real number. That's not just a couple of random outliers. That's a real block of Republicans who are willing to go their own way and vote their conscience. And these are mostly moderates and vulnerable incumbents who represent competitive districts. These are Republicans from districts that aren't super safe. These are Republicans who need to appeal to independent and moderate voters. These are Republicans who know their seats are at risk in the midterms. And they calculated that Trump's opposition to the funding bill mattered less than avoiding a shutdown that would hurt them politically and electorally. So they voted their conscience. They voted their political interests. They voted to protect their own electoral futures. And they didn't care that Trump would be angry about it. They understood the political reality. That suggests something important and significant. Trump's control over the Republican Party is weakening. His ability to discipline party members is declining. His ability to force party loyalty is fading away. And this connects to what we've been seeing in the broader Trump administration. We've seen him fire cabinet members who don't do what he wants. We've seen him struggle in the courts. We've seen his judges not automatically rubber stamp his policies. And now we're seeing his own party defy him. The cracks are showing, the control is slipping, and that's probably what's most concerning to Trump about all of this. It's not just that he lost on the funding bill, it's that he's losing the loyalty and deference he's used to from his own party. There's a historical parallel here too. This wasn't the first time Republicans have gone around Trump. Earlier in his term, just weeks into his second term, Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution to fund the government. Trump wanted deep cuts, Trump wanted changes, but Republicans passed a clean bill anyway. They ignored his demands, and they did it to protect their majority. So this is a repeat of what happened before. It's the same playbook. Republicans protecting themselves by ignoring Trump. Republicans making their own decisions about what's best for the party. Let's break down what this all means and what comes next. Let's talk about the implications of Republicans defying Trump on a major piece of legislation. Let's talk about what this tells us about the state of the Republican Party and about Trump's political power going forward. And this is fundamental. This shows that Trump's control over the Republican Party is not absolute. It's not complete. It's not as total as he probably thought it was. Trump has been used to dominating the Republican Party for years. When he says something, party members fall in line. When he wants something, Republicans deliver. But this vote shows there are limits to that power. There are Republicans willing to defy him. There are Republicans willing to go against his wishes. There are Republicans willing to make their own calculations about what's best for themselves and their party. That's a meaningful development because it suggests Trump can't just impose his will on Congress. He can't just demand things and expect to get them. He has to actually build coalitions. He has to actually persuade people. And sometimes he's going to lose. From a political perspective, that's actually healthy for democracy. If a party never defied its leader, if party members never voted their conscience or their political interest, that would be problematic. It would be cult-like. It would be unhealthy. So the fact that some Republicans were willing to defy Trump is actually a sign that the party still has some independence. It's a sign that not every Republican is blindly following Trump. It's a sign that there are people in Congress who are thinking about their own interests and their own values and their own districts. But for Trump, it's infuriating. It's humiliating. It's a challenge to his authority. And this is important for understanding where we are right now in American politics. Trump's alliance with the Republican Party is starting to show real and significant strain. For years, Trump has been the dominant force in the Republican Party. He's controlled the narrative. The party has organized around him. Party members have deferred to him. Party policy has followed his lead. But now we're seeing Republicans push back against him. We've seen cabinet chaos. We've seen his own judges questioning his policies. We've seen Congress defy him on a major piece of legislation like this funding bill. These are all signs of strain. These are all signs that the marriage between Trump and the Republican Party is starting to break down and fray at the edges. That's a real problem for Trump because he needs Republican support to govern effectively. He needs Congress to pass legislation. He needs party loyalty to achieve his agenda and implement his policies. Without that support, without that loyalty, Trump's presidency becomes much harder, and this could get worse. This could be the beginning of a broader pattern of Republicans defying Trump. As we get closer to the midterm midterm elections, vulnerable Republicans are going to have to make more and more decisions about whether to follow Trump or whether to follow their own political interests. And increasingly, those two things are going to be in conflict. As Trump pushes his revenge agenda, as he pushes for mass deportations, as he tries to weaponize the Justice Department, vulnerable Republicans are going to have to choose. Do they support Trump or do they protect their own seats? And votes like this suggest that many Republicans will choose to protect their own seats. Trump's truth, social tirade after this vote, is actually a sign of weakness, not strength. It's a sign that he's losing control. Trump posted angry messages. Trump called Republicans rhinos and cowards. Trump said they had betrayed him. Trump was furious, and he was airing that fury publicly for all to see. But that kind of public tantrum doesn't help him. It doesn't intimidate people. It doesn't make him look strong. It just makes him look unstable. It just makes him look erratic and unpredictable. It reinforces the narrative that's already out there about Trump, that he's more interested in revenge and grievance than in actually governing and moving the country forward. That's a real problem because public perception matters. If the public sees Trump as unstable and volatile, if they see him as unable to control his own party, that hurts him politically. And Trump's approval ratings are already slipping. That's not great. That's not strong. That's actually pretty weak for a sitting president. And this kind of public meltdown over the funding bill is only going to drive his approval ratings down further. It's only going to make more people think that Trump is not fit to be president. It's only going to reinforce doubts about his leadership. So the way he's responding to this loss is actually making things worse for him politically. He's digging himself into a deeper hole. The passage of this bill means that Trump's immigration enforcement agenda is going to be funded and able to continue operating regardless of this defeat. Even though he didn't get his wall funding, even though he didn't get the massive ICE budget increases that he desperately wanted, the bill still funds immigration and customs enforcement at existing levels. The bill still allows the Trump administration to conduct deportations and immigration enforcement operations. The bill still allows ICE to operate and carry out its mission. So while Trump lost on getting additional funding for his immigration agenda and his border wall aspirations, he didn't lose on his fundamental ability to conduct immigration enforcement and deportations. The government is going to remain open and operational. ICE is going to be funded. The administration can continue its deportation operations. So while Trump is publicly treating this as a complete and total defeat and a betrayal, it's actually more of a partial loss. He got some of what he wanted and needed. He just didn't get everything he wanted. But here's what really matters for the midterm elections from a Republican perspective. This is actually potentially bad news for the GOP because the MAGA base is going to be upset. The hardcore Trump supporters are going to see this as Republicans betraying Trump and his agenda. The Trump base is going to perceive this as Republicans going soft on immigration enforcement. That could really dampen enthusiasm for the midterms among Trump voters. It could reduce turnout among the core Republican base. And in a midterm election where turnout and enthusiasm are absolutely critical, where every vote counts, that could be a serious problem for Republicans trying to hold control of the House and Senate. So while Speaker Johnson made the political calculation that passing the bill was necessary to protect vulnerable moderates in swing districts, that decision could actually end up hurting Republicans in more conservative districts where the base is more aligned with Trump and where base enthusiasm drives electoral outcomes. This brings us to the big question: what happens next? Does Trump continue to spiral? Does he continue to rage against his own party? Does he try to primary Republicans who voted against him? Does he try to purge the Republican Party of rhinos and build a new party? Or does he try to move past this and refocus on his agenda? We don't know yet, but based on Trump's past behavior, he's probably going to try to punish Republicans who defied him. He's probably going to endorse primary challengers against them. He's probably going to try to make an example of them. And that could actually make things worse for Republicans because primary fights hurt general election chances. Internal party warfare hurts the party's ability to compete against Democrats. The bottom line here is that this funding bill vote represents a genuinely significant moment in Trump's presidency. It's a real turning point. It represents House Republicans essentially saying, we don't care what you want. We're going to do what we think is right for the Republican Party and for our members. That's a significant break from the near total party discipline and loyalty that Trump has has enjoyed and relied upon for years. It's a sign that his power and influence over the party is weakening and deteriorating. It's a sign that his alliance with the Republican Party is under real strain. And it's a sign that the remainder of Trump's presidency could be significantly messier and more chaotic and more unpredictable than his first term was. Because if Republicans aren't going to automatically follow his lead, if they're going to make independent decisions, then he's going to have to actually build coalitions. He's going to have to actually persuade people. He's going to have to actually negotiate and compromise. And that's honestly not something Trump is particularly good at or particularly comfortable doing. So expect more chaos ahead. Expect more drama. Expect more spiral moments like this one where Trump goes on Truth Social and rants about betrayal and disloyalty, because that's what happens when a president loses the unquestioning loyalty that he's used to from his own party. The man who thought he owned the Republican Party just found out he was never really in control. And the meltdown has only just begun.